Heads up, fellow female leaders, executives, and founders. We have just opened enrollment for the Fall Renegade Accelerator. You can head to renegadeaccelerator.com to check out all the information and apply. And here's the kicker. From now, today, until July 29th, 2022, we have something going on that we've never done before. If you join the Fall Renegade Accelerator before July 29th, if you apply and you're accepted, not only are you in the program and then in the Renegade Collective, you've got your membership, but you also receive a ticket to the 2022 Renegade Summit this September in San Diego. This is something we've never done before, but we don't want you to miss the opportunity to connect in person very soon. So make sure to get that application in before July 29th. Head to renegadeaccelerator.com.
There's nothing wrong with having requirements and preferences. The problem is when we're not being clear and we're not communicating that, and we're making the assumption that people are going to do it like you do it, which of course is never going to happen.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step.
Hey everyone, this is a really special episode because this is with one of my favorite humans on the land, and that is Regan Walsh. She is our Chief Renegade Officer and my right hand, my soul business partner, really. And I've learned so much from this woman. As a little bit of background, she has coached some of the top executives at Nike, Wall Street, and everything in between. So she knows what she's doing as a certified coach, and also someone who has navigated her own life with constant curiosity, growth, and integration of lessons. She's a lot of value to offer. So in this discussion, we share some of the key things I've learned from Regan, and also some of the key things we integrate into the Renegade programming, into the Renegade Accelerator, as well as the Renegade corporate programming when we're working with big brands. What you're going to hear is a little bit about our point of view on perfection, and some tactical things you can do to actually optimize your day and your relationship with perfection. These are literal, tangible things that Regan offers in terms of advice to kind of get over, things needing to be perfect. Also, we talk about this concept of disease to please, right? So this is the not wanting to let people down. Regan is really good at helping coach and guide people around boundaries so they are able to operate in their capacity and full potential and not be at an over bandwidth, over capacity type of feeling of burnout. One of my favorite things that I've learned from Regan, and I continue to learn and practice daily, is this concept of asking yourself, is something a requirement or is it a preference? And so as a leader of yourself, as a leader of your team, of your family, of your community, this is so important because this allows us to kind of get over that perfection trap, but also create some additional peace around us and in our environment. So when something comes up, asking yourself, is this a preference that I'm about to ask for, or is it a requirement? And making that really clear to the person and the party that you're responding to. So that is, I can't wait for you to hear about that one. Being able to ask for what you want and what you need shedding your shoulds. We really need to stop shoulding all over ourselves. And another thing is taking out the head trash, right? So you've probably heard me say before, don't let people rent space in your mind for free. It's valuable real estate. And for that matter, don't let anything rent space in your mind for free. It's valuable real estate. We have to be good landlords of our minds. And Regan talks about how to literally take out the head trash, right? We have to empty that and make sure that we're operating with a full tank of gas, with clarity and with room in space for expansion. And then lastly, brave before good. Right? This isn't really about let's fake it till you make it. That's something we actually don't subscribe to or believe in at Renegade. You become it, but you have to be brave to become it. And you have to be brave enough to take action before you might be good. And so as those who listen to this podcast, I know that you're high performing and driven and have very high expectations of yourselves, but this can be counterintuitive to us at times. Before we get started, we want to be able to kind of take out some insurance on our success or make sure that we're going to be really good at something. Well, it actually works in reverse. So experimenting, growth mindset, willingness to learn fast, that's brave before good, and that's innovation. So without further ado, here is Regan sharing her wisdom in a conversation we have together. This is a treat because this doesn't happen very often. So enjoy. Heads up to my fellow female leaders, executives, and founders. We've just opened enrollment for the Fall Renegade Accelerator. Now, this is the career love of my life, and we have been around this block a few times. This is version 9, and it all started as an experiment. Now we have hundreds of women across the globe within the Renegade community. You can head to renegadeaccelerator.com for all the information. You can learn about the program. You can hear from the Renegade graduates. You can hear their results, watch their videos, check out the curriculum, the testimonials, and everything in between. Years ago, I went to Mark Cuban for some investment advice, and I thought I was going to hear him say something about real estate investing or maybe something specific about the stock market. That was not the case. What he said to me was, Amy Jo, invest in yourself. And from that point on, I really did double down on myself. And it's amazing to see the ROI. The Renegade Accelerator is definitely the career love of my life. It's an intensive, real-time virtual training program that continues on. This is not a stop and start. We provide the foundation for the Renegade mentality that extends into everything you do personally and professionally, whether that's growing and scaling your business, climbing the corporate ladder, getting on boards, generating more wealth through investing. If you're fundraising, we also focus on that, as well as, maybe most importantly, building your personal brand so it opens the doors that you need to get you exactly where you want to go. Now, if you want something you've never had, you must do something you've never done and go somewhere you've never gone, right? And usually that means surrounding yourself with people you've never surrounded yourself with before. So that is exactly what this is about. And when I've practiced that in my own career and in my own life, the growth has been exponential. Talk about 10x the way you think and execute in that scenario. It's real. Now, in this program with the Renegade Accelerator, we focus on building your personal brand online and offline. I've been doing this for well over 15 years, and I've done it with some of the biggest names out there, some of the biggest brands out there, from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, helping him build his strategy, boots on the ground from the very beginning and beyond, to Hilton Worldwide, to executives, to athletes, celebrities, founders, you name it. And that's what we're going to do with you. In the Renegade Accelerator, I provide the step-by-step playbook for you to grow your thought leadership, your voice of authority, your influence, both online and offline. We also focus on public speaking. Now, this is a big area in the curriculum because getting on those stages and growing that thought leadership, becoming more and more of that voice of authority is super important to be able to get you to where you want to go. And you know what we do? We help you get paid to do so. Now, there's a business side to public speaking. I've been public speaking for about 15 years professionally, which means getting paid to do it. There's a definite playbook and business operations around this. We teach you that. We also teach you the performance side, which is extremely important as well. The curriculum is equal parts education, collaboration, and accountability. Now, we are industry agnostic for a reason, meaning we have women from all different verticals and different industries because that value exchange and that ability to share the intellectual capital ends up being exponential. So that accountability is also key. Renegades are all about taking action, massive intentional action. And of the over 200 graduates that we have in this Renegade Collective, they have all said, you know what, I signed up and joined the Renegade Accelerator for the curriculum, for the education, and for the content, but they stayed for the people. They stayed for the results and the network and the people. So once you graduate from the Renegade Accelerator, you automatically become a member of the Renegade Collective. This is where you will have access to everything from peer circles, from the other graduates who have graduated before you, to experts, in-person live events, this network of women who opens doors and who are committed to your goals and your growth just as much as their own. Renegade Collective members are personally investing in one another. We are making introductions. We are hiring one another. We're sharing that expertise and that approach that really has created exponential growth for the community. We have had many Renegade Accelerator grads on this podcast, so please listen back to those episodes and hear from them as well. If this piques your interest, head to renegadeaccelerator.com, take a look at everything, apply, and we will circle back with you. If it's a good fit right now, we have limited seats and we can't wait for you to join this Renegade community. We already have an incredible roster who has joined for this next cohort, and we'd love to add you to the list. So head to renegadeaccelerator.com and get that application in. And here's the exciting part that's super timely. For the first time in 5 years of running the Renegade Accelerator program, we are doing something we've never done before. If you join the Fall Renegade Accelerator between now and July 29th, 2022, not only will you get the 8-week program and the Renegade Collective membership that continues on for that full 12-month span, but you will also receive a ticket to the 2022 Renegade Summit this September in San Diego. Now, historically, only Renegade graduates have been invited to attend the summit, but we don't want you to miss out and have to wait a whole year to meet this community and exchange value. So this is a limited time offer. Get that application in today and head to renegadeaccelerator.com. We wanted to share some of the top takeaways that my team and I and the Renegade community have learned from Regan Walsh. Now, Regan and I have worked together for a year, and I have been studying under Regan on a few different areas, a lot of different areas, but specifically a few today that we want to share with you. And these have really shifted the way I lead the company, the way I lead my life. This shows up in my interpersonal relationships. So I'm excited to hop in with Regan Walsh. And as a reminder, this woman has done a lot of things in her career. She is a voice of authority and has guided executives on Wall Street, at Nike. She has a marketing expertise as well. And she's just an incredible people leader as well as human. So Regan, without further ado, welcome for this special episode.
Thank you so much, Jo. I am so excited to dive into habits that I have seen consistently over the past decade derail executives in their career and in their lives. So I figure we'll just dive in and kick off with the number one thing I have seen across the board, and that is with our friends who identify themselves as perfectionists. So, what is a perfectionist? A perfectionist is somebody who weights everything on their plate equally, right? So, if you're a perfectionist, every project you have for work is equally as important as everything in your home life, within your community. So, your board service, your career, your family, it's all weighted equally. And when that happens, paralysis kicks in because you can't make progress on all things and do them all perfectly at the same time. So it really makes it hard to make progress when you're in that perfection trap because you don't know where to get started. So you're just in that state of paralysis. You're also somebody that says yes to more things than you have bandwidth for because you know as a perfectionist that you're going to do it right and anybody else in your life is going to do it wrong.
How presumptuous of us, by the way.
Right? Because I'm going to do it right and you're going to do it wrong. So let me just put that on my shoulders.
And so I can identify with bringing the same level of intensity to the perfect grocery shopping list and a budget. And it just, I get that. I physically know that feeling. And now that I have heard this from you many, many times, I feel like I am more self-aware of, yeah, you know what? This thing over here, you can bring 20% to it. This thing over here, it needs 200%. So it's a recalibration, but that self-awareness and reminder is key.
Well, and it's constant coaching, right? Do I really need to add this value right now? Do I need to put my energy? Is this the highest use of my energy? Is this really what deserves my attention in this moment? A lot of time, if you're being honest with yourself, those things don't need your attention in that moment, or they don't need to be perfect. So I would love to dive into how this can show up, especially for the people managers out there, because if you're a perfectionist, you could be impacting your team in ways that you don't even realize it, because you're on this constant drive for perfection rather. So number one, you're more likely to micromanage your teams, right? Because you don't fully trust the people you hired to do their job. So you need to be more involved along the way. When that happens, your team feels like they're not doing a good job. So they feel crummy and their confidence can go down, or their self-worth can go down because they feel like they're not delivering for you. Another thing that can happen is that they stop trying because they know eventually you're going to redo it anyway. So they stop putting in the effort because they're not going to do it well enough. So it can really build up over time and then add more to your perfectionist plate. A way to show up differently for your team would be take the time up front to map out the expectations, number one, and then get crystal clear. And I know this is one of your favorites, Jo, so I'm going to pause and make sure everybody here can hear this, to understand the difference of your preferences, things that you like to see, things that you would do versus the requirements, right? So everything that we do, we have preferences and requirements. And one of the stories I share in Heart Boss, the book that I wrote, is about my husband making dinner. He was making me dinner for Mother's Day, and I felt, really glad that he was taking that load off of my shoulders. And he was making stir fry, and he was chopping up the peppers into little cubes. Now, as we all know, there's a right way to chop peppers for a stir fry and there's a wrong way. So in my mind, a strip of a pepper makes sense. The cubes don't make sense. I had to stop myself in the moment from doing what I say is adding value to my husband and correcting him about how to prepare dinner for me, because I really felt like he was doing it wrong in the moment. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're doing it again. You're trying to perfect this meal. You're doing it and adding your preference of how the peppers are cooked versus the requirement is that dinner is served and I don't have to actually make it or do the dishes. So it shows up in your lives personally and professionally all the time. And one of the things I encourage you to do, whether it's leading your teams or managing your household, is to ask the question, do I want to add value here? And by adding value means correcting or applying your preference, your lens to whatever that situation is. So there's always a moment to pause, ask yourself that question, do I want to add value here? And then decide. So with the example of my husband making dinner, I opted not to say anything because what would that do to him? It would make him feel bad. Oh, now I'm doing it wrong when he's trying to show up for me and make me dinner, right? There's no right or wrong. Dinner was being prepared. That was the requirement. So it takes a lot of self filtering to get this right. But if you are a perfectionist, you're going to catch yourself throughout the day wanting to add value that could deflate somebody and not really move the needle forward.
I love this so much. I love this so much. Two thoughts, Regan. Okay. As I'm listening to you, I was thinking about one way of literal application that I see myself using this is we all have certain small things that we like a certain way. Obviously, some are preferences, some can be requirements. And when you are the leader or the founder of the company, you get to choose, right? Which one is this based on what's in the best good of the team and the business? Well, because I do have some pretty specific visions and ways that I like to seek design and copying things, what I've realized over time is that sometimes it makes more sense for me to make mental note and maybe make a yellow list of some trends I'm seeing versus make correction of every single little thing. So when the time permits and it's the right time in scheduling and just the flow of the team and time, I can bring those up with maybe one person individually or with whoever it makes sense to bring it up with versus the nitpicking every single little thing. And so it's just kind of a yellow list, as a reminder, is a concept where you keep a little note in your computer or on your phone or an Evernote or whatever. And this doesn't have to be discussed and addressed right now with this person, but here's a short ongoing running list of things that we will touch base on and cover off on when we have the next 10 or 15 minutes, right? So I don't know. I just like this idea of batching preferences that you would like to see requirements over time. Okay, so I know I'm getting a little complex here, but I think sometimes they add up, right?
For sure they do. And I do think it's important to have those conversations because over time, whether it's your team or, whatever the situation is, people will understand what it is you're looking for. And the more you can be real clear, there's nothing wrong with having requirements and preferences. The problem is when we're not being clear and we're not communicating that and we're making the assumption that people are going to do it like you do it, which of course is never going to happen, right? Because we all have our own ways.
Right. And sometimes your preference would be that over time you see this trend that's happening, it turns into a requirement. Like we're coachable and we can learn to undo, but it's not worth stopping and doing a fire drill in the middle of the day. The other thing I was thinking about as you're talking about this is, especially for people leaders and perfectionists, that micromanaging nerve and just like desire, let's listen to that and be self-aware. Is it possible that the wrong person is in the wrong seat on the bus and this was your decision in doing, you as the leader and or the team of people who decided, and or are you trying to kind of hold on a little too tight there? Do we need to ease up? So I think if that continues to come up where you find yourself micromanaging, getting very clear and being honest with yourself with, okay, is this something that I've created by maybe not putting the right talent in the right seat on the bus? Or is this me being literally a perfectionist that needs to ease up and communicate if it's a preference or a requirement? Does that make sense?
100%. And if the answer is the latter, that it's you being a perfectionist, there's another thing you can ask yourself, and that is this a big deal or a little deal? Right? Because there are big deals and little deals, and the big deals are the things that you probably don't want to put on a yellow list. The big deal is something that, wow, this is actually needs to be addressed in the moment because people do learn in the moment.
100%.
Right? If it's a little deal, then you add that to your yellow list and you can bring that up. But yeah, sometimes it's a hiring mistake. And if you're constantly trying to course correct somebody, it's possible they're not operating in their zone of genius. And if that's the case, they're not happy either. Right? So they probably are looking for a way out or to be in a different seat because they want to be able to do their work without being, micromanaged.
Exactly. I love it. And you can use preference and requirement to yourself, to your own self-talk and your own to-do list. Like, oh yeah, I would love that, but I want a pony too, not a requirement today.
Exactly. 100%.
Okay, let's keep going. I love this so much. Okay, what's next?
Amazing. Okay, so we have our perfectionist check. The other habit that gets in the way and often goes hand in hand with being a perfectionist is the disease to please. So if you are somebody that suffers with the disease to please, you want to say yes to everything because you don't want to let anybody down. So you are saying yes to more obligations at work, to more obligations with your family, to more obligations with your community, because you just want everyone to be happy. You don't want to let anyone down. You're capable of doing it and you know you're going to do a good job. So why don't I just take this on so you don't have the burden of taking it across the finish line, right? Let me do that for you. At the end of the day, if you have the disease to please, chances are your to-do list doesn't have much crossed off, right? So the things that were most important for you, you didn't even tackle those because throughout the day, you were saying yes to 100 different messages on Teams or Slack or, DMs that you got from colleagues, and you're adding their workload onto your plate versus helping coach them in the moment and giving it back to them. So there's a great article that I recommend to all of our renegades on Harvard Business Review that's called Who's Got the Monkey? It was written decades ago, and it is still one of their most popular articles. And it gives the analogy of you're walking down, back in the day when we were in an office and you're walking down the hallway and people are coming out of their offices and saying, Amy Jo, can I ask you just one question? Can you, help me with this thing? And you say, sure, I don't have time to answer it right now, but let me take that monkey and I'm going to put it on my back. And by the time you get to the end of the hallway, you have a dozen monkeys on your back because you said yes to helping a dozen different people. And you get back to your desk and you're trying to make progress on all of their projects. And at the end of the day, you're exhausted and you haven't moved anything that was important to you because you're helping them, because you're a good person. You want to show up for them, and that's who you are. So if you're somebody that has the disease to please, I really encourage you to pause in the moment. And yes, it's great to help people, but give it back to them. Don't put their work on your shoulder, so that you, at the end of the day, have the opportunity to unplug fully, to go work out, to spend time with your family, and you're not resentful, right? Because you're saying yes when you could say no. So there are other tactics that I'll share here in a moment about how to get rid of some of those yeses that we put on ourselves. But truly, if you are a pleaser, you need to pause in the moment, put it back on them, and not waste your days on everybody else's projects.
Love it. 2 quick thoughts and then we'll move on. I just have a commentary on this. Okay, so I think about why. Why do we have the disease to please, right? So not to go there necessarily because we're not trying to turn this into a therapy session. However, my therapist, talking to her last week, we dove into this very topic. Why are we putting other people's expectations above ourselves, or putting other people's expectations or priorities above ours? And so it is worth thinking that through and potentially going there if you so choose to open that Pandora's box. Because I think that there's an ability to kind of systemically look at this. That being said, another thing that I have to share with you, right before Regan and I hopped into this recording, we were talking about something business-wise that was fairly intense and that we want to shift. And it was like, it's a good convo, right? It was like we were going there, full of mutual respect, 100% stability felt like, on my end at least. We have so much equity in our relationship that we can handle honest, let me tell you exactly what I'm thinking, direct now, in a kind way. And I think that this whole disease to please, if we can establish those relationships that are so solid, we probably will see less of that because we're trying to, it's almost like walking on eggshells sometimes, like, oh, I don't want them to be upset, so I'm going to do this anyway. And when we have that stability and equity in our relationships, I think we tend to be more honest and truthful. And if there's care and compassion involved there, like, talk about efficient, amazing progress we can make. So it kind of goes back to those relationships, right? And being fiercely honest and brave and
full of compassion or respect. I don't know. I just think about what we navigate on a daily basis, Regan, and it's pretty cool.
It's amazing. And isn't that's just one of the foundation of Renegade. So when we take our Renegade program into corporate America, it's all about building that candor, that trust, that human component. Because when you see the humans behind the logo and you see your colleagues as showing up as their full selves every single day, you're able to have those direct conversations. You're able to say, hey, this feels really off to me, but we have a common goal. We're going to the same place. How can we shake this up and how can we make it easier for ourselves? There shouldn't be this tension or struggle. If this were easy, what would that look like? And I think that goes back to the foundation of what it is we teach, right? You have to have human connection. And if you are somebody that's a pleaser because you don't want to let people down, well, heck, let's get better at letting people down and giving them some support, but not taking on their projects and saying, I see you. I understand that's really stressful. Let's coach you in the moment on this, but then you still have to do it because that's your role. It's not my role to do it. And that's, I think, a really great thing. And when you have alignment with your teams and you can give that direct feedback and move toward that common goal, there's nothing better. I mean, my gosh, why are we spending an hour on something if we can spend 5 minutes? I think everyone can appreciate reclaiming time in their days.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hi, everyone. If you are digging this podcast, please do us a favor and subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It just takes a moment and it means a ton to us. Okay, what do you have next for us?
Okay, asking for what you want. So in general, in my decade plus of executive coaching, people from all sorts of companies, from Nike to Wall Street, something that I have seen consistently is that we are crummy at asking for what it is we want. We expect people to spontaneously reward our contributions. We expect people to anticipate our needs, to give us the promotions we want, to give us the special projects, whatever it is. This also applies to partners, spouses, children, right? I just want to share that if there's something that you have on your mind, you need to communicate it to your boss, to your colleagues, to your partners, to whoever it is, and tell them where it is you're trying to go, what it is you want. Because what happens if you don't is somebody else is going to be talking about that exact same thing. And because they're talking about it, they're going to get it. I remember working with an executive at Nike, and she kept her head down and she did the work, and she was an expert at this digital product that they were producing. And she should have been the next in line for this promotion, but she had a colleague who was talking about the promotion and the role and how they wanted that role. And guess who got it? Her colleague got it. She didn't get it. She focused on the work, was humble, trying not to talk about all the contributions she was making, while that opportunity passed her by because she didn't ask for what she wanted. So raise your hand, tell people where you're going, because people like to help other people and they want to open those doors and they want to sponsor you, right? If they believe in you, they're going to sponsor you, which means they're talking about you when you're not in the room in all the best ways. They're saying, you know, who you need to know is Amy Jo, because she can do X, Y, and Z for your corporation. You want people out there talking about you to help you get where you want to go. They can't do that if you don't tell them exactly what it is you want.
We cannot hope that someone someday notices us and gives us what we want by reading minds or wanting to do it out of the goodness of their heart. Like, that's great if it happens, but let's advocate for ourselves. There's a quote, and I don't have it verbatim memorized, but it's Abe Lincoln, and he would say to his commanders, if there's something in your wanting that I can provide, do not fail or hesitate to let me know. And I thought that was cool from a leader talking to leaders. Like, this is your job to speak up, right? That is on you. That is your responsibility. You have to let me know how I can help you, type thing. And I just thought that was so cool that he would say that to them.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And that's, again, something that we talk about here all the time with our community. It's like, what doors can we open for you? Let us know, because that's the whole purpose of this community, right? Is to open doors and help you get exactly what it is you want.
Yes. Exactly. We need We need action. Okay, what do you have next? This is one of my faves.
Okay, so shedding the shoulds. We all need to get better at shedding the shoulds. Let's first talk about what the heck a should is. So a should is something that you typically say yes to out of fear or obligation, right? You're a pleaser, you feel obligated. It's generally something that you're not excited to do. So examples of shoulds could include signing up for a board in your community because you feel obligated to the nonprofit because it's a good cause and they need somebody and they asked you to do it. And so they asked you, why wouldn't you say yes? That is an example of a should. A should could also be a special project. A should could be a weekend away with, some people that you actually don't want to go on that weekend, right? It could be, for me, I am somebody that I don't generally attend baby showers or wedding showers. And I don't make homemade, Pinterest perfect cupcakes for my kids' classroom. Those to me feel like shoulds. I decline the opportunity. I send a gift with a nice note, or I, buy the cupcakes at the grocery store that are school safe. There are a lot of opportunities to shed your shoulds. One indication is if you're somebody that says, oh, I have to go do this. I have to go to this dinner party. I have to go to book club. I have to volunteer. I think it's rare, if ever, I say I have to do something. I get to do things. When I say yes to something, I'm all in. I get to do that. Right. And so start to notice your language. Like, I get to have, a Saturday afternoon with my kids. I get to go on a date. I get to go to Austin and hang out with you. Right. Like, get really clear on your have to list and see what you can eliminate. There's probably a lot there. And you can do it gracefully as well. I was recently supposed to be on the board of my kids' school. It kicked off almost a year ago. And I realized that I had too many things happening all at the same time. And I felt like being on their board was a have to, and I got out of it. So you can always get out of situations. And if there's that mutual respect, you're not burning a bridge. You're showing up for yourself, because if you don't, you're just going to be living in a constant state of burnout. So it's a not right now, maybe later in some cases, or it's a hard pass. And either way, you win.
This is one that the language we use with ourselves, for sure. I'm staring at my Evernote right now, and it's my to-do list. My to-do list. It's not I have to do. And it's a mentality of what goes on there. Mm-hmm. Also, and the should to the could. I'm thinking yesterday, there were a few things that I felt I should do on my to-do list. Not fun around the house stuff. But then I thought, but I could go run around Lady Bird Lake and actually really enjoy it. And it was one of the best decisions, right? So if you catch yourself saying should, maybe you should turn it into what you really could do at that time.
1,000%. And, one of the questions that we share a lot with our Renegade community is, if I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? Because every yes we give means we're saying no to something else, right? Everything has a trade-off. Every decision we make means we're not doing the other thing. So you have to get really clear on what you want to say yes to. You got to double down on being selfish in that, because there's always a trade-off. If I say yes to a weekend away with my girlfriends, I'm saying no to hanging out with my family. Well, you know what? I haven't seen my girlfriends in a long time. Heck yes, that's worth it, right? On the other end, saying yes to catching up on email, and you know how we feel about email, right? Here at Renegade, it is not our to-do list. So if I say yes to catching up on email versus going on a run around the lake, I'm going to resent that. So I'm not going to say yes to that. Instead, I'm going to put on my oxygen mask first, go on the run, and I'll get to that other stuff when I really need to. So always understand the trade-offs. That's a huge component.
Yesterday, I had a conversation with a friend who I use the whole what you're not choosing, or what you're not changing, you're choosing. Okay, so that's one of my favorite Regan sayings. What you're not changing, you're choosing. And the conversation went like this. For the 8th week in a row, I hear, oh, my week is so busy. I've got such a week, da 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 da. And I was just like, yeah, that is something you say every single week, though. So how could this one be much different? What you're not changing, you're choosing. I said that. And what I realized is, and I'm so guilty of this at times, overly busy overcapacity or bandwidth people, they're annoying, right? Like, no, shut up and do something different. We talk about this every week. I'm just annoyed. Don't argue your limiting beliefs with me. Like, you got them.
Right, because most of the time it's our own fault, right? Because we have the autonomy to say yes and no to things all day long. And it is wild. Let's not be that annoying person who is perpetually busy and can't make it happen. Right? That's all on you.
If that's not motivation, I don't know what is. Okay, we've got 2 more huge concepts here.
Okay, head trash. We all have it. So head trash is that negative self-talk that happens from time to time. And depending on who you are, it might happen a lot and it might happen very infrequently. But head trash is when something goes wrong, you leap to the worst possible conclusion, right? The spoiler alert in all of this is that every single person experiences failure. It's a shared human experience. So I think the sooner you can move past whatever that barrier is for you, to add in some self-compassion, to replace that negative thought with something that's actually true and positive, over time, you will rewire your brain. There is a lot of data out there to prove that. Start small, and over time, I'm not kidding, this is something I've been working on for probably nearly 20 years now. You will default to positive moments in your brain, positive self-talk versus negative. Another thing that I share all the time is, when things go wrong, visit Pity City. Fine, feel bad for yourself, but then get out of there and call upon your success. Know that you're going to learn from whatever adversity just happened and move forward, right? You got to take out the head trash. It's so silly to beat yourself up. That's nonsense.
Yes. I just have to plug her. So my aunt, who was an entrepreneur and she was just an incredible soul, she used to say, don't let anything rent space in your head for free. It's valuable real estate. So your job is to be a good landlord, period, right? So just such a good concept. Okay. Brave before good. Ooh!
Yeah, this is another one we love here at Renegade because we're all about taking action. So you know that I cannot stand the saying, fake it till you make it, because if you're doing something, anything, whatever it is, then inherently you're not faking it because you're doing it. You are being brave before good. So it is so important, those things that you daydream about, this is what we teach all the time, that you're like, oh my gosh, I wonder if I could just fill in the blank. Go for that promotion, climb a mountain, whatever it is. You have to be brave before you can be good. Of course, you're going to stumble. Of course, you're going to, have moments that feel like setbacks, but you're being brave. And along the way, you're building that good muscle. So you just have to take the next step forward toward your dream, and then the next and the next. These aren't giant steps. These are baby steps that are all going to compound over time and get you to that ultimate goal. But you have to be brave before you can be good, and you have to get started somewhere. So just get started today. What is that one thing you can do to kind of unlock that stuckness and generate momentum forward?
And this really pushes you across the starting line. It's like Renegade rule number 2, really. Put a mechanism into place that holds you accountable and don't give yourself an out. But that brave before good, certain people, if you look around, you'll just witness and watch. They do this all the time, and it looks effortless almost because they've become so used to just trying and knowing, hey, this may not work out as I planned, but I have to do this in order to get something that I don't have now. So I love it. And I think we romanticize, like the perfection or the execution being a certain way when everything's messy when we're first getting started, right? It's just the way it goes. Nothing impressive ever started out impressive. It was messy. I was thinking about, we've talked a lot about confidence at Renegade and where it comes from and how we build it. And it's such a cool tool. And I was thinking about early day career moments where I can't remember if I was faking to be confident or if I was confident. That's what went through my head. And I was like, wait a minute, I did that. So I must have had it. Right. But I was like, was I pretending to be confident or was I actually confident? And then I caught myself and I was like, no, there's no such thing as pretending to be confident. You just are. You might be scared while you're confident.
But you have the courage to do it anyway.
Exactly. So there really isn't such thing as pretending to be confident. It's a cool thing to think about as you are entering into uncharted territory. These concepts, let's recap real quick. So going down the list, we talk about perfection and that amazing tool of identifying, is this a preference or is this a requirement, right? Not everything can be weighted equally. Disease to please, and really understanding how we can better navigate what we say yes to and make those decisions. Asking for what you want. I love the example that you gave of that with that Nike executive. Shedding your shoulds, and what you're not changing, you're choosing. We also talked about the mental game, right? Those shackles in our mind, taking out that head trash, and then brave before good. There's no such thing as faking it. If you have the courage to do it, you're doing it. Regan, thank you so much for sharing any parting wisdom that you have for us.
I would say, what's your next step? Just write it down and go do it. That would be all I would say. Just start today. Why not?
Well, thank you for teaching me so much on a daily basis. And if anybody wants to learn more, make sure to follow Regan on Instagram. Go connect with her on LinkedIn, Regan Walsh. And we will continue this conversation and have you on again, Regan, as we continue to learn and things unfold.
Cannot wait. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?